to myself. It was many years ago in business school, and we were asked to write a letter about what our life would be like 10 years into the future. I wrote about being happily married, having 2 lovely children, and opportunities to travel the world. But what I never included in that letter, or even thought to write about, is any form of hardship. It wasn't that much longer or later. It was actually the same week of my 5-year business school reunion when I was diagnosed with an aggressive stage 2 triple negative breast cancer. I never planned to even attend that reunion though, because I was actually far along in my pregnancy with my second daughter. It was actually at a 38-week ultrasound appointment for the baby that I felt a lump in my chest. It was a small, hard, pea-sized mass. I was immediately paranoid and raised my concerns to my OBGYN. But I was told it's likely nothing to worry about because I was young, only 31 years old, pregnant, and it was likely a clogged milk duct. I still insisted upon wanting an ultrasound or biopsy, and she put in that referral. But I never made it to that appointment because just 2 days later, my water broke and my newborn arrived 2 weeks early via C-section. Now, if having a toddler, having a newborn, and recovering from surgery wasn't enough, my newborn daughter, Mira, actually had trouble breathing after delivery. We had to watch her be intubated and ambulance transported to another hospital with an acute NICU. As she faced days of testing, we shockingly and thankfully didn't forget about the lump. And because I was still unable to walk from my C-section, my husband actually wheeled me from the NICU to the neighboring breast clinic for an ultrasound and biopsy. Even there, the breast surgeon said it was likely nothing to worry about because I'm young and pregnant and that the tissue feels soft, just like a clogged milk duct. Relieved, we went back to the NICU, from where my parents were calling us frantically, wondering where we are because the baby needed to be fed. Thankfully, just days later, my daughter Mira was discharged with a clean bill of health, and our family was able to go home. Our family was healthy and happy and complete. But that joy only lasted for 2 days. Because that Saturday, the day of my daughter's 1-week birthday, as I was sitting up in bed holding my baby in my arms, I received a call from the breast surgeon saying, "I'm sorry, but the mass is malignant after all." I'll never forget that "after all" because no one thought it could be anything. And as I was overcome with shock and coping with this diagnosis, I was also trying to figure out how I'm going to share the news with my husband that his 31-year-old wife had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, the same exact age that his birth mother was when she passed away from breast cancer. In the year that followed, I had 10 rounds of chemotherapy and 4 surgeries. And there's many ups and downs and stories underlying that entire roller coaster. But above all, what matters most today is that next month marks my 10-year anniversary of being cancer-free. Reflected on that journey and that period of my life, there's 3 questions that I realized I was asking myself that were making all the difference. The first was, what can I control? I remember when the doctors told me that 2 weeks after my first chemotherapy infusion, my hair will begin to fall out. And even though I knew to expect it, when it actually started to happen, it was incredibly jarring and painful. And not just for the obvious reasons that one might grieve the loss of their hair, but because it felt like one more thing that was happening to me in an already uncontrollable situation. And so by asking myself, what can I control? What is that moment that I can seize? Instead of just slowly watching my hair fall out, I proactively shaved it. And I turned a moment of sadness into a moment of strength. Another question that I would ask myself is, what is my path of least regret? There are so many difficult decisions that needed to be made along a cancer journey. The foremost being, what is my treatment plan actually going to be? And I think I naively assumed that, breast cancer's been around for a long time, the doctors will tell me what to do. And I was somewhat surprised, a little bit scared, that they were actually asking me my opinion. They were presenting me with options and asking me which treatment plan did I want to follow. And in this situation where there's no guaranteed outcome of success, there's complete uncertainty of the future. There is no easy answer. There was no path of least resistance. I chose my path of least regret. It was by taking into account everything I knew at that time and knowing that there was no way to guarantee the outcome, I was looking to not just minimize my regret, but maximize my peace of mind with whatever happened. And the third question that I would ask myself is, what am I most thankful for? Now, that was a long list. I had a lot to be thankful for. But there's one particular situation that could have made all the difference in my outcome. And that's that, thankfully, just 2 years prior to my diagnosis, I had been the first in my family to get genetic testing done and learn that I carry a hereditary elevated risk of breast cancer. And it was the knowledge of that elevated risk that empowered me to insist upon an ultrasound and biopsy, to not dismiss the lump during an otherwise extremely stressful time, even when everyone was saying it's a clogged milk duct. And especially because after my delivery and after my milk came in, I actually couldn't feel that lump anymore. I would have breastfed my daughter for a year, just like I had my first, and by the time I would have felt that lump again, my diagnosis and my prognosis would have been entirely different. Now, these three questions have led to personal breakthroughs that have taught me the power of mindset and how to navigate change, not just during a health diagnosis, but in all aspects of our life. And it's become my mission to now pay these learnings and these breakthroughs forward. But when it comes to cancer care and patient advocacy, there's a different question that drives me. It's actually a question that my daughters asked me at bedtime. At bedtime, that sacred time when we're curled up in bed with our children, homework is done, the stresses of the day have washed away, and they're able to actually dig deep and share what's actually on their mind. And the question that my daughters asked me is, Mommy, am I going to get cancer? Now, that's a heartbreaking question to hear as a mother. And thankfully, they were so young when I went through my treatment that they don't necessarily remember that. But over these years, they have seen their grandmother, my mother, become a 3-time cancer survivor. My family's actually here with me today, right here at this table. I have my daughters, my parents, my husband, and my siblings. And the reason it was important to me to have my daughters here is because I wanted them to see that when it comes to the threat of cancer, we are doing something about it. We're sharing our story. The American Cancer Society is doing something about it. And today, all of you have the opportunity to take action as well. Now, we can't predict the future, but we can work to shape it. We can write a letter about what the future looks like in a world where we've been able to end cancer as we know it for everyone. And when we think about taking that first step to preparing for that future, we can channel the personal breakthroughs that I have had, where we seize control of what it is that we can do today. We can choose our path of least regret. We can think about what we all have to be thankful for and consider how we can pay that forward to others. Tonight, when the opportunity comes to boldly raise our paddles, we can collectively take our best foot forward, and we can work to drive the breakthroughs that are going to transform our vision for the future into a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us tonight, to sharing your light that you gave us, and we're so happy you're here with us, and thank you again. Let's give her another huge round of applause, please.